Hey guys, it's Mike Orletta coming at you with another forecast. This time we're going to be going over a possible snowstorm, maybe a snowy pattern, right before the Thanksgiving period in the Northeast. Now, before we get started, before we get into it, if you guys could leave a like and subscribe, it would really help out a small growing channel such as myself. But other than that, alright, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to want to go over is the ensemble models. Now, ensembles are basically just a average of a bunch of models put together. Now, they're different for each specific model. So we have the European model, the Canadian model, the American model, and each one of those models have their own ensemble. I like to reference them, they're like their kids. A bunch of models put an average together and they come out with a more smooth and averaged out forecast. These are especially helpful in the longer range when specific operational models aren't that useful, but these can give you a general idea of what's going on. So this is the European ensembles initialized earlier today, and the time period is for the 25th of November, so next Monday. Well, really 2 Mondays from now. So the first thing I want to point out here is the ridging in the Bay of Alaska. There's a lot of positive height anomalies going on in the Bay of Alaska. That's the first thing. I think weather flows from west to east, excuse me. So the first thing, I always like to look out west, see how the Pacific pattern is. Currently, not a bad look for a storm to traverse along to the east coast. So whatever goes up must come down. So these positive height anomalies crash in the east, and here we have negative height anomalies. So this is the chart we're looking at is 500 millibar height. Basically, this is just a measure of the pressure differences at 500 millibars high in the atmosphere. So you could see in the east, we have much lower heights than normal. This is called troughing or a trough. With troughs, you associate more stormy weather, more stormy patterns, and generally cooler weather. Now, we do have a trough on this model in the East Coast, and what we also have in the Greenland region, we have more ridging in the Greenland region, so more positive height anomalies. So what this means is that these positive height anomalies are going to lock in the cold. If this cold and these negative height anomalies try and retreat, it's not going to be able to work because there's this blocking high here in Greenland. So this is definitely going to keep the cold locked in for this time period right before Thanksgiving. This also will help slow a storm down if something begins to form. So if we get a low pressure to start to form at the base of the trough, which is likely to happen in my opinion, if this storm tries to come up the coast, it's going to be stopped by this big blocking high pressure. So any storm that attempts to run up the coast is not just going to be able to fly by, it's going to have to take its time and slow down. Alright, so the next thing I want to go over is the GFS ensemble model. So this is the same type of idea. It's going to be a collection of a bunch of models averaged out, but this time it's for the GFS, the American model. So we still have ridging in the west, as denoted by these warmer height anomalies here, except it's a little further east this time. So here, the around this area in the Gulf of Alaska was where the European ensembles focused the ridge, but now it definitely has slid further east in the GFS interpretation of it. So what goes up must come down. There's a big trough in the eastern United States as well. Now, with this particular orientation, any storm would likely slide out to sea, but we're 200 hours out, so it's definitely could change. So overall, same general idea: ridging in the west, troughing in the east, and more ridging, very important, over Greenland. So this once again will help lock in the cold air. It will also slow down any storm that forms and attempts to come up the coast. So if we really quickly look at the differences between the two, this is the European. Looking at the differences between the two, GFS, European, GFS. You could definitely see, especially in these areas, a little less ridging and a little bit in Greenland as well, but the European sometimes goes a little ridge happy in Greenland, and a further east-based trough. So this is the European, this is the GFS. Overall, the same general thing: ridging in the west, trough in the east, blocking over Greenland. That is what's really important at this time frame. We're looking at Monday, November 25th. So the next thing I want to take a look at, this is once again the European ensemble. This is the teleconnection forecast. So we're looking at the Arctic oscillation. When the Arctic oscillation or the AO is negative, well positive in this upper region, this is positive, um, you could expect warmer temperatures on the east coast, specifically of the United States, and a little chance for some normal or below normal temperatures in the west coast. When the AO is negative in this region, we will get much colder than average temperatures in the East Coast. As you could see by the European ensemble, we're expected to follow a negative trend until at least mid-November. Now, the storm that I really like is going to take place somewhere within this period. Let me highlight this period. So somewhere within this period, I think there's going to be a chance for a snowstorm. So as you could see, models kind of all over the place, but the average, the mean, which is this green line, so the mean is the green line, is negative, not by much, but we do have some models that are up to around -3 values. So we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on this as it moves up in the time frame. Now moving on to look at the NAO forecast, once again, top is positive NAO and bottom is negative NAO. It stands for North Atlantic Oscillation. This is once again the European ensembles. Negative NAO once again will lock in the cold air in the east and slow down any storms, allow for more precipitation. Now, once again, let's highlight the same period that I did last time. This forecast doesn't go out as far, but my apologies. Let's highlight the same period as we did last time for a possible storm threat, in my opinion. Now, looking at this specific time period, most models, the green line is the mean, remember, are at a -1 around this area, but a lot of them around the -3 value. So this points to me very big chance for a storm signal here with the AO negative, the NAO negative as well. Very good chance for a storm within this time frame between the 24th and the 27th. Personally, I like the 25th to the 26th, but that time could definitely change. Now here we're taking a look at the operational European model. Now this is the actual model, this is not the ensembles, and you could see for the date, the 24th afternoon on the 24th, we do have a low pressure developing in the southeast region. We have a trough as denoted by dip in the jet stream with these blue contours, and we do have a low pressure developing and moving to the northeast. Now, uh, it concerns me a little bit that there's a low pressure over here and it's not a high pressure, but there's a lot of time to sort this out. We're 200 hours out at this point, at least 200 hours out. So, but what matters is that there is cold air locked in here. You can see with these blue lines, generally. Oversimplified version, but generally that means that there is a good amount of cold air in place. And you could see by these blues, there's a little bit of snow breaking out. Now, this isn't a particularly strong storm, but that's not what we care about right now. What we care about is that there is a storm in the model. At least there's something. You know, this is something that we could work with. Developing low pressure in the southeast, moving to the northeast. This is exactly what we want to see at this time frame. So it's definitely something that we're going to be keeping an eye on here. Now, another model that I definitely want to go over, this is called the CFS model. Personally, I like it a lot as a long-range model, not as much as a short-range model. You could see it's a little lower, more coarse resolution here. The polygons are not nearly as small. However, I really like it for picking out patterns. And look, this is for the 24th, afternoon on the 24th, same time as the last model. We have this trough in the eastern US, and look, we have a rather strong low pressure right in here off the Delmarva coast, and we're having snow, rain, and ice break out to the northwest. I truly believe that this could be the first big snowstorm of the year for at least areas northwest of the big cities, northwest of I-95. Boston, New York, Philly, DC. It's way too early for specifics, but just climatology speaking, you are likely not going to be in this one. Uh, but stay tuned. I have a December outlook coming out, and it'll tell you whether it's going to be cold and snowy or warm and dry. That should be dropping in the next few days, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But what matters a lot right now is just seeing that there is a storm in the models this far out, 200 hours out, 190 something hours out. What matters at this point is we have the overall setup. We have blocking in the eastern Canada Greenland region. We have a storm, we have a trough, there's ridging in the northwest region. That's really what matters as of right now, in my opinion, is just getting the overall feel of how the pattern is going to shake out. The specifics definitely will come later, but overall, I think there's a rather high chance for a storm in this time period. Another thing I also definitely want to take a look at is something called the Bering Sea Roll. A brief overview of this is whatever happens in the Bering Sea will translate to the United States, specifically the eastern United States. Now, this date is valid for November 25th, 11:25 at 0Z. The forecast for the 25th is calling for a low pressure system right as the other models were showing off the central mid-Atlantic coast. This is Virginia right here. This is Delaware, New Jersey. This is New York, Boston. Just to give you a sense if it's a little hard to see that there. So the Bering Sea Roll is calling for a low pressure to move right up the coast. So that is just another facet of what we want to see. All these signals are pointing to a storm, and just have this on board also. In my experience, it's worked really well. We have a high confidence that there is going to be some type of storm, whether it be rain, snow, whatever. The details cannot be ironed out yet, but I really have a high confidence that there will be at least some unsettled weather in the east. Now, unfortunately, that's all the time that I have for today, but this was just generally a brief overview of what's going to happen. If you guys enjoyed the content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. To see more content like this, let me know that you guys like it. Let me know what I could possibly explain more, things like that. So, you guys have a great day.